Right now, you are standing at the grocery store checkout holding a single box of cereal, looking at the two parallel lines in front of you, trying to calculate which one will get you out of here faster. You pick the left one because it looks slightly shorter, but the moment you step into place, the person at the front of your line pulls out an envelope of expired coupons. The cashier calls for a manager over the loudspeaker, and the line next to you starts gliding forward like a freshly greased highway. It feels like a personal curse, a glitch in the universe designed specifically to ruin your Tuesday afternoon. But reframe it, this ordinary, everyday frustration is actually a highly predictable reaction triggered by an invisible combination of psychological illusions and structural design systems. It is hidden in the architecture of your cities, the layout of your stores, and the unwritten rules of your brain. The question is, why does the other queue always feel faster, and why does your mind fall for this mental trap every single time? To find the beginning of this mystery, we have to look back to a time before supermarkets even existed. In the early 20th century, an engineer named A.K. Erlang was working for the Copenhagen Telephone Company. He wasn't looking at shoppers, he was looking at phone lines. People were making calls, and the switchboards were jamming up. Erlang wanted to know how many phone lines were needed to handle a certain number of callers without creating massive delays. So he created math. Specifically, he invented queuing theory, the literal mathematical study of waiting in lines. Erlang discovered something incredibly brutal about how lines work. When multiple separate lines operate independently, a single random delay in one lane causes a compounding bottleneck that ripples backward through the entire line. Think about that. If there are 3 lines at a store, the chances of your line being the fastest are only 1 in 3. That means, mathematically speaking, there is a 67% chance that one of the other lines is moving faster than yours. The math is rigged against you from the start. You are literally outnumbered by the other lines. But here is the thing. The math explains the physical delay, but it doesn't explain why we feel like the universe has a personal vendetta against us. For that, we have to fast forward to the 1970s and look inside the human brain. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky began studying how humans make judgments under uncertainty. They discovered something called the availability heuristic. Human brains are terrible at keeping accurate statistical logs of our lives. Instead, we measure reality by how easily we can recall specific memories. When you pick the winning line and zoom right through the checkout, your brain registers absolutely zero emotional friction. You get to your car, you drive home, and you completely forget the event ever happened. It is a non-event. But when you get stuck behind a person who needs a price check on a bag of limes, your brain fills with cortisol and pure, unadulterated annoyance. You stand there staring at your watch, watching the rival line breeze past, getting more frustrated by the second. Because this moment is emotionally painful, your brain stores it as a vivid, high-definition memory. When you ask yourself, why am I always stuck in the slow lane? Your brain instantly pulls up all the high-definition memories of being stuck, while completely ignoring the hundreds of times you sailed right through. Same. Yeah, I'd rather remember the wins too, but our brains just aren't wired that way. Your memory is literally lying to you, except the illusion goes even deeper than bad memories. It stretches into a psychological phenomenon known as illusory correlation. In 1976, researchers David Hamilton and Robert Gifford conducted experiments showing that when 2 distinct or negative events happen at the same time, our brains automatically invent a causal relationship between them that does not exist. You think, I am in this line, and this line is stopping. Therefore, the line is stopping because I am in it. You naturally turn yourself into the main character of a tragic comedy. In reality, the cashier's tape roll ran out because of a math problem, not because you walked up to the counter. Your brain just hacked your perception of reality to make you feel like a victim of cosmic traffic. Here's what makes this so important. If waiting in line is just a mix of simple math and faulty brain wiring, you would think we would just learn to deal with it. But corporations realize that waiting in line is the single most dangerous moment in the entire consumer journey. If a customer gets too bored or too angry while waiting, they will experience something retail researchers call reneging. That is the fancy academic word for dropping your basket on the floor, walking out the door, and never coming back. So, companies started weaponizing psychology to alter our perception of time. In the mid-20th century, a major hotel in Manhattan faced an absolute crisis. Guests were furious about the long wait times for the lobby elevators. The hotel executives brought in top engineers who told them that speeding up the elevators would cost millions of dollars. Instead, a staff psychologist suggested a radically cheap fix. They installed floor-to-ceiling mirrors next to the elevator doors. Suddenly, the complaints dropped to almost zero. The elevators weren't a single second faster, but the guests were now completely occupied checking their hair, fixing their ties, or awkwardly avoiding eye contact with strangers in the reflection. The hotel didn't shorten the physical wait time. They shortened the occupied wait time. This became a foundational law of modern consumer architecture. Occupied time feels significantly shorter than unoccupied time. If you give a human stick figure literally anything to look at, their internal clock slows down. Think about why modern grocery stores surround you with candy, magazines, and bright digital screens right at the cash register. It is not just an impulse buying trap, though it definitely drains your wallet. It is a retention tool. By keeping your eyes busy scanning chocolate bars and celebrity gossip, your brain is too distracted to notice that the line next to you just advanced 3 feet. But what happens when corporations want to eliminate the internal competition between lines entirely? They change the geometry of the room. This brings us to the ultimate modern design solution, the serpentine queue. Instead of multiple separate lines where you have to gamble on a specific cashier, you are forced into one long, winding, snake-like line that feeds into a row of multiple registers. You see this system everywhere now, from airports to fast fashion retail giants. Mathematically, the serpentine line is a masterpiece of queuing theory. It guarantees absolute fairness. If register number 3 gets bogged down by a complicated returns transaction, the entire line doesn't freeze. The next person in the snake simply glides over to register number 4. But here's the problem. Even though the serpentine line is mathematically superior and fairer, humans absolutely hate it. In the 1980s, behavioral psychologists began testing testing consumer reactions to different line structures. They found that when people look at a massive winding serpentine queue, their brains experience an immediate spike in visual anxiety. The line looks incredibly long. It looks like an unbeatable boss battle. Even if a serpentine line moves 3 times faster than a traditional multi-lane setup, our brains are incredibly visual. We would often rather take a 1 in 3 gamble on a shorter-looking traditional line, even knowing the math is rigged against us, just to avoid the visual dread of joining a massive human snake. We actively choose the trap because it looks less intimidating. So here is the full picture of the checkout gridlock. A telephone engineer proved that independent lines create compounding random bottlenecks. 2 psychologists proved that our memories selectively save our worst grocery store frustrations while deleting the easy wins. Retail corporations realized they could manipulate our internal clocks by putting mirrors in lobbies and candy bars at the registers, and modern architects built winding serpentine lines that solve the mathematical problem but trigger our visual anxiety. It all loops right back to your life right now, standing at the cash register, watching the person next to you move ahead while you remain entirely frozen in place. You are not cursed. You are not a victim of a cosmic glitch. You are just a biological machine with a lying memory operating inside a physical space that was meticulously engineered to manage your patience. The next time you stand there feeling your blood pressure rise because the rival lane is moving faster, just remember that your brain is playing tricks on you. You think you are completely in control of your choices, but you are really just an anxious stick figure navigating an invisible maze. Enjoy the cereal. If you want to understand more about the hidden system shaping your daily life, stick around. We have plenty more everyday puzzles to solve together.